present to you a panel discussion to commemorate 100 years of the iconic novel, A Passage to India. I am Anupama Saini, and I head the British Council Delhi Library. Before we start the event, a few housekeeping announcements for everybody. Please do not climb or walk fast on the stairs and avoid movements during the program. There are emergency exit doors on your left and right. In case of any emergency, please use the nearest exit door. In case of any alarms, please remain seated and do not panic. There will be volunteers and staff of British Council India to deliver the welcome address. Michael, please join us on the stage.
Good evening, everybody, and a really warm welcome to the British Council this evening. It's wonderful to welcome you all to tonight's discussion about E.M.Foster's iconic novel, A Passage to India. So the idea behind A Passage to India, and we want to explore why the novel still endures today. What can it teach us about contemporary UK-India relations? And we'd like to explore some of the themes that have shaped the way that we understand the history and the intricacies of UK-India relations over the past 100 years, looking at themes of colonialism, racial prejudice, power dynamics, identity, friendship. So it's very interesting, I think, from a British Council point of view, that we're hosting this discussion of a novel that is so much about how British people misunderstand India, and a novel that's filled with cultural clashes and misunderstandings, and a novel whose story hinges on a fundamental lack of trust from British people in India. It's very interesting that we're hosting this at the British Council, an organisation whose mission is all about building trust and building understanding between India and the UK. So our mission here at British Council is to build connections between the UK and India, connecting young people, students, writers, artists, academics, cultural institutions from India and the UK. And through these connections, we hope that we'll be able to create more knowledge, more understanding, and ultimately more trust. And we do this in many ways, across education, across language, across culture, but of course, literature, which is so effective at showing the reader perspectives that are different to the reader's own perspective, is a very, very powerful tool to build that understanding and build that knowledge across cultures. And this is especially true for the book we're discussing this evening, A Passage to India. So we'll be discussing the novel, we'll be exploring Passage to India through the lens of this other book that you can see, or you'll be able to see on stage when it's lit, called 100 Years of Passage to India, International Assessment. So this book, 100 Years of Passage to India, was published last year by Orient Black Swan, and will be joined on stage by three, or on stage or online, by three of the people who have contributed to the book. So we're very, very privileged to have Professor Harish Trivedi, who is the editor of the book, but has also contributed one of the chapters to the book. Professor Harish Trivedi is a renowned scholar of English literature with a specialization in post-colonial studies, and he's contributed extensively to this field, focusing on colonial and cultural studies. So we're delighted to have Professor Trivedi with us. We're also joined on stage by Professor Vinita Bhatnagar, who's a prominent literary critic and writer, known for her critical analyses of Indian literature and colonial history, whose work sheds light on social and political impacts of colonialism and how it shapes contemporary narratives. And online we'll be joined from the UK by Professor Rupert Snell, who's a distinguished scholar and expert in South Asian literature and languages. To anyone, myself included, who's ever tried their hand at learning Hindi as a foreign language, Professor Snell is a legend in the field, and I know I've certainly used many of his textbooks and readers and primers on Hindi. And Professor Snell will be talking to us all about the joys and challenges of translating Passage to India into Hindi, but he has a long and illustrious career in translation, learning Hindi as a foreign language, translating Hindi, both poetry and prose, into English. So really delighted to have Professor Snell joining with us. Really, really a great privilege to have such distinguished scholars here, and I'm sure that their contributions will enrich our understanding of Foster's work and its enduring relevance. So just a little bit about tonight. I'm about to invite Professor Trivedi on stage, and I'm assuming most of you who've decided to spend your Friday evening at a talk on Passage to India will be familiar with the book, but just in case anyone is not, Professor Trivedi will talk a little bit about Passage to India, what the book is all about, and then also a little bit about his own book, 100 Years of Passage to India, and what the vision behind that book was 100 years on. Then we're going to see a little snippet of the film. So in 1984, David Lean directed a film version of A Passage to India, and we've selected what we think is a very compelling scene from that film, just to give you a flavour. And then we'll have a panel discussion with our three panelists, and then we'll have time for question and answer at the end. So as we reflect on Foster's timeless novel, please do engage in the conversation, think of questions to ask, and share your own thoughts at the end on the legacy of A Passage to India. So thank you all for being here tonight. It's really great to have you here for what we hope will be an interesting celebration of literature, intellectual discourse, and shared inspiration. We look forward to an enriching and thought-provoking discussion. And with that, let me invite Professor Trivedi to the stage. Professor Trivedi.
Thank you, Michael. And what a pleasure it is to be in this auditorium again. Once again, so
Professor
frequently we've been
Trivedi.
here for all kinds of occasions.